everyone. So I'm filming this around Halloween, hence the Max from Where the Wild Things Are hat. But confession time, in the fall and winter, I pretty much wear this thing nonstop, so you're welcome. In the spirit of all things wild, we are going to talk about the craziness that is NaNoWriMo. It's just around the corner. I know many of you are participating this year, which is so exciting. I actually participated 2 years ago and won/completed/ whatever you call it, the whole thing, which was such a cool thing, honestly. It was awesome. I didn't really go into it expecting to have a book that I wanted to pursue and publish, really. It was more like getting into the habit of writing every day and trying to push out that many words in 1 month. I just really wanted to get into the habit of writing more, and I definitely feel like it was a fruitful month for me. So however you're going into NaNoWriMo this year, I want to encourage you. I want to cheer you on from the sidelines, because as an editor who works with new authors all the time, I know it can be really intimidating and disheartening at times to write a book, especially when you're trying to write one in a month. So we're gonna talk about 3 books on writing that I recommend and 3 tips for how to NaNoWriMo. Hopefully this video will motivate you and inspire you to get it done. Some of you may be thinking, Molly, there's no way I'm gonna wanna read books when I'm trying to write a novel in a month. That's just crazy talk. And I get it. That may be the case for you, but you might surprise yourself. You may need the inspiration. You may need to just give your story some space and read something inspiring about writing. If you get that urge, I say go with it. Hopefully it will get your creative juices flowing. So the first book I have is Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. Many of you have probably read this if you're authors or pursuing publishing in any way. It's actually called Bird by Bird, Some Instructions on Writing and Life, which is exactly what this book is. I love Anne Lamott so much. This is one of my favorite books that really peers into the writing process and takes a look at what it's like to really have the courage to be creative and to make writing a part of your everyday life. It's fun, it's hilarious, it's beautifully written. Honestly, it gets right down to the heart of it, which is committing to the writing process fully. From motivations and fear to revision and writing groups and the whole actual publishing process. This has been an incredibly insightful book. I just love that it is a step-by-step book. Like, she doesn't cut any corners. She doesn't have any fluff. She's totally, real about the whole thing. But at the same time, she knows that writing is a holistic process. She knows that you can't separate the writer from the writing. And she kind of takes a look at that too, like how your mental state can affect your writing. And she talks about fear and love and loss and jealousy and kind of has some memoir moments throughout. But overall, she's just extremely practical, and I love this book. Even if you don't read it for NaNoWriMo, you should totally read it in general. The next book I have is Writing Fiction, The Practical Guide from New York's acclaimed creative writing school. Gotham Writers Workshop put this practical and wonderful guide together. They have really mastered the art of teaching the craft of writing. With this book, you can take a fundamental look at all the elements of fiction: character, plot, point of view, and there are exercises to immediately help you apply what you're learning, which is really cool. A lot of the writing exercises in here may be helpful as you're writing throughout the month to kind of push past writer's block. I also recommend On Writing by Stephen King. I don't have this book because I read it through the library. Most writers have probably picked this up, but if you haven't, you definitely should. Many of you know that I'm just now reading The Shining and that I have never read any fiction work by Stephen King. But it is true that I knew that he was a genius before reading his fiction because of this book. This is a memoir on the craft of writing. All of his advice is heavily rooted in his childhood experiences, in his, the first attempts of writing a novel and how writing helped his recovery. He talks about his, struggling career, and it's really inspiring. And honestly, it's so conversational, it's so personal. It just feels effortless when you're reading it. And there's even a section that's like really applicable about grammar, just grammar. And you may think that's boring, and I'm telling you, it's fantastic. And now on to my 3 tips for slaying NaNoWriMo. My first piece of advice is 2 words: Pomodoro technique. This is a productivity technique that I use every day, and you can totally use it for NaNoWriMo. It's simple, it's effective, and I'm obsessed with it. Basically, it's a time management system that's all about eliminating distractions, going against the whole multitasking trend. You give yourself 25 minutes for a task, and that's 1 Pomodoro. You work for 25 minutes without interruptions, and then you take a short break, like 5-10 minute break. Every 4 Pomodoros, you take a longer break, like 20-30 minutes. That time is really important because you need to rest your brain when you're working. I like using this technique with the Pomodoro app because you can visualize everything. You can literally see kind of the checking off of each Pomodoro, and it's just really motivating. During NaNoWriMo, there will be days when you just do not want to write. You just won't want to do it. And setting a timer for 25 minutes is kind of a motivating way of being like, okay, I'm just gonna do a little bit at a time. And it's not like looming over you the whole time. It feels more manageable. And the more Pomodoros you achieve, the more motivating it will be. And pretty soon you'll just be writing up a storm and it'll be awesome. The second tip that I have is simple, but seriously, just hear me out on this. Tell the people in your life that you are doing NaNoWriMo. Like, you are participating, you are all in, because A, that's accountability. Like, once you tell people, you're gonna have to stick with it. And B, a lot of people aren't gonna understand. Even people you live with. Tell your family, tell your friends. If you can set aside a chunk of time, that's even better, because then you can say, I'm blocking off this time to write, and not just like, hey, I'm gonna be busy, but like, hey, I'm going to be locking myself in my room, don't bother me for 4 hours, something like that. Whatever your plan is. And you may not have that flexibility to have consistent writing hours, but either way, I think it's important to talk to family and friends. Let them know that you're planning on doing something totally massive. If you were going to run a marathon, you would let people know to support you and encourage you and not ask you to go hang out when you really just can't. When I participated in NaNoWriMo, I found that a lot of the stress I was dealing with kind of came from this place. I had to say no to a lot of activities and people, and that's just the reality of it. Some people just didn't get why I was glued to my desk, and other people who did get it were able to really cheer me on, and that meant a lot. That's my advice. Try to carve out time, consistent time if you can. You don't have to let them know what you're writing about. Don't be vaguely busy. Commit and just show up. There is so much power, I'm telling you, in just showing up. Even if you're like, I haven't been plotting my novel, I don't know what I'm gonna write about, or I don't wanna write right now, just show up and you might surprise yourself. Third piece of advice is to go on artist dates. This is an idea that came from The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, another book kind of on unlocking your creative potential. Basically, the idea is to plan festive solo expeditions, just by yourself. And ideally, you want to do something that kind of pushes you or something that you wouldn't normally do every day. Julia Cameron talks about this idea as sort of like wooing your creativity or like enchanting yourself, which may sound weird, but honestly, it's just a time to be playful and to just replenish your creativity. Like if writing and being creative is really like working out a muscle, then you do have to have that time to rest and replenish. It's good to step away from your computer because it's really easy to be on zombie mode while you're doing NaNoWriMo, and that's just not going to benefit your book. I think it's just really easy to put the blinders on, but I would encourage you to do something new, spark your creativity, even if you just go on a walk outside. I mean, you never know what could show up on the page. That's all I've got for you for now. I just wanted this to be an encouragement to you before all of the craziness sets in. I'm hoping to film a video soon on some of my favorite books on editing, because December will be editing month for NaNoWriMo, which is my favorite month, obviously. I want you to be well equipped in the months of December once you finish this thing and you're like, what do I do now? So anyway, keep working hard. I believe in you. Max from Where the Wild Things Are believes in you too. Go on some adventures and I'll see you on the other side. You can do it. Bye.